Hey folks, this is Rhykker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include Jeff Kaplan leaving Blizzard, Path of Exile's disastrous expansion launch, huge new content coming to Diablo Immortal, and more. As always, discussion timestamps can be found in the video description below. But right before you skip ahead, just a quick reminder to ring that sub notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes and stay up to date with gaming news highlights. Now before we move on, just a quick word from this video's sponsor, Squarespace. I built my website Rykker.com using Squarespace, and I was able to do everything myself, quickly and easily, and with zero education in the field, all thanks to how easy Squarespace is to work with. Diablo 2 Resurrected's alpha took place a couple weeks ago, and I recorded gameplay with each of the available classes. I wanted to add these videos onto my website, so watch how easy it is for me to build out a new section to embed those videos. No coding knowledge needed, just a few intuitive clicks, a browse through the templates, and you've got yourself a professional looking website. Basically, if you want to build a website, I recommend Squarespace. And Squarespace is currently offering my viewers 10% off your first purchase with them. Just go to squarespace.com/Rhykker or click the link in the description to sign up and start building your online presence. That's squarespace.com/RHYKKER and use code Rhykker to get started today. In our first quick story, games journalist Jason Schreier has confirmed via his internal sources that a Knights of the Old Republic remake is in development at Asper Media, a company that has previously released ports of BioWare games, including KOTOR itself, for iOS and Android. KOTOR was an excellent game. Here's to hoping it gets an excellent remake. In other news, which came as a huge shock to me, Overwatch game director and one of the vice presidents at Blizzard, Jeff Kaplan, is leaving Activision Blizzard. After 19 years at Blizzard, he is leaving the company with no public explanation for his departure. And his assistant game director, Aaron Keller, will be taking his place as Overwatch game director. Kaplan has been the public face of Overwatch for 5 years, beloved by the community, and his official goodbye message felt a lot shorter than what we've tended to see from people in big positions leaving Blizzard. Without any mention of why he was leaving or what he's off to do next, Kaplan thanked fans and his fellow developers. And in his own message, Aaron Keller spoke highly of Kaplan, who he had worked alongside for years. Kaplan was one of the few well-known veterans left at Blizzard. He was headhunted for World of Warcraft back in 2002, and after a few promotions, he wound up as the game director of WoW in 2008. And after seeing through to release what became one of WoW's best expansions, Wrath of the Lich King, in 2009, Kaplan left the WoW team to work on a new MMO project at Blizzard, Titan, that ultimately became Overwatch. Now, many in the Overwatch community believe that Kaplan fought back against corporate on a lot of monetization issues with the game, ensuring that heroes and maps would always release as free content for everyone, with loot boxes, which in fairness players can earn through regular play or by purchase, being his compromise. Now, while his replacement Aaron Keller gives us no reason to be concerned about Overwatch being in bad hands, it has led many to speculate as to the reason why Kaplan left before seeing the release of Overwatch 2. In general, it's bad optics all around for a game director to leave in the middle of a project. You tend to see both parties reach some kind of agreement where, just to save face, they wait for the game to release before the departure happens, so that the community doesn't become concerned about the game's development. Now, while we may never know the real reason, we'll certainly keep an eye out for what's next for Kaplan. Is he retiring? Is he moving to another company? Will we see him join Mike Morhaim's Dreamhaven? Whatever his next move is will give us a clue, but we don't know how long it'll be before we see that move, and whether any potential non-compete may be involved. Kaplan did make a follow-up post on the Overwatch subreddit to thank the community. Didn't offer any additional details, but he did say, quote, "Please take care of the Overwatch team. They are wonderful, caring, brilliant people, and they need you right now. Papa Jeff will be missed." Now, Jeff isn't the only departure from Blizzard in recent times. Just last week, we spoke about David Kim leaving Blizzard, and we wondered where he was headed next. Well, as it turns out, according to his LinkedIn, he's landed a job at Tencent America as a lead game designer. And speaking of Tencent, in other news, Amazon Game Studios has cancelled its Lord of the Rings MMO, which was expected to release in 2022. Amazon had first revealed its partnership with Leyou Technologies in 2019 to produce the game, but in 2020, Leyou was acquired by Tencent, which led to new contract negotiations between Amazon and Tencent. Now, the two parties allegedly couldn't come to an agreement on terms, which has now led to the game being cancelled, and the dev team that was working on the game has now been moved on to other projects. In other news, the developers of upcoming ARPG Last Epoch shared information about a new update that will focus on endgame content. Quote, "In addition to introducing new challenges and rewards for players to experience, it also brings many improvements to existing content. The next content patch will be overhauling spires, giving them a visual upgrade and their own unique attacks for more distinct and varied challenges." On to Path of Exile news. The newest expansion, Ultimatum, launched last Friday, and it was a rough launch night. The situation was resolved by the following day, and the league is otherwise being well received, but the launch night itself was one of, if not the, worst league launches the game has ever seen. When the league started, players found themselves stuck in queues. And when they'd finally get in game after waiting forever, they'd suffer a disconnect soon after, and then back in queue, 100,000 people ahead of you. Meanwhile, the devs don't understand what's happening. They're trying to troubleshoot the problem. They couldn't figure out what was wrong because they had prepared for this. It wasn't negligence, it wasn't oversight. They had literally load tested the servers for twice as many players as were connecting, and the tests all went fine. So what's going on? So while that's happening, the bigger problem started when players started to notice streamers who were streaming themselves sitting in the queue just like them, starting to seemingly jump the queue and get right in. It appeared that the developers themselves were informing certain streamers to back out of the queue, log in again, because they had flagged them for a special priority queue that moved them to the front of the line and into game. So as players got wind of this, they became upset. Why should streamers get special privileges? And they were already upset that they couldn't play, or were getting disconnected all the time when they were trying to play. So now they got really upset, and a lot of that anger started to get thrown at the hapless streamers who seemed initially unaware of the priority queue completely. They hadn't asked for any special treatment, and thereafter many streamers started to actually request to be removed from the priority queue, either out of a sense of justness and fairness, or because they just didn't want to keep getting hated on by viewers. So while some streamers requested to be removed from priority queue, certain other streamers, I won't name names, just told viewers that life isn't fair for starving children in Africa, so deal with it. Maybe not the argument I'd go with, but... Well, after the fact, GGG issued an apology to its player base for giving streamers a priority queue, and they explained what happened. Basically, for this expansion, the devs had done a huge marketing push. They were spending a lot of money to pay a lot of streamers to play on that night. And now those streamers were just stuck in a login queue. So, you have a contract that says you're paying for 2 hours of a streamer's scheduled time. It's not the streamer's fault that they can't log into games, so you're potentially paying someone for 2 hours of just sitting in a queue. Chris Wilson compared it to, quote, setting a big pile of money on fire. So out of panic, they started flagging the streamers' accounts to be able to actually play the game that they were being paid to play. Now, Chris Wilson admitted that this was a mistake, and he promised players that they, quote, will not allow streamers to bypass the login queue in the future. Now, an unintended consequence of all this has been the rise of conspiracy theories. If streamer accounts were getting flagged for a priority queue, what other special privileges could streamers potentially be getting? Twitch culture always jokes about streamers having good luck. If it was in the game's best interest to make streamers play on launch night for marketing purposes, would it not also be good, for marketing purposes, to give streamers better luck with drops? it certainly seems within the realm of possibility on a technological level. The devs have spoken over the years about the possibility of flagging botter accounts for lowered drop rates to kind of punish botting, so why not give streamers higher drop rates to create a sense of benign envy from viewers and keep players motivated to try to win big just like they see the streamers win big? If it can happen for them, it can happen for me, right? Now, I personally don't believe GGG ever did this or ever would do this, but this incident has resulted in more people considering possibilities they may not have previously considered. Starting to think, well, if they have the power to flag an account for bypassing a logging queue, what other dials can they flag on certain specific accounts? On to some Diablo news. A new Diablo Immortal alpha has begun. This time, closed alpha. Previous one was technical alpha, that was back in December. This alpha is expected to last longer, and it includes a ton more content. First off, the Crusader will now be available. That leaves just the Necromancer as a class that has been revealed, but is not yet playable. There's going to be new zones, a new dungeon, but to me the most exciting feature is the Cycle of Strife, which is faction-based PvP. It is an enormous system. Basically, you start off with 3 factions: Adventurers, Shadows, and Immortals. It's an opt-in system. If you don't want to be a part of it, you don't have to. You start off as an adventurer, and if you want to opt in, you then can become a shadow. And basically, there's a whole lot of shadows, and there's a very limited number of immortals. It's King of the Hill on a faction level. Shadows will organize themselves into little kind of mini guilds, but they're separate from regular guilds. They're called dark houses. So you assemble with other shadows into different dark houses, and these different dark houses are trying to take on the immortals. If the immortals are overthrown, then one of the dark houses becomes the new immortals, starting a new cycle of strife. So as a shadow in a dark house, you will get contracts, and you pursue these contracts, their quests, and that's gonna make you rank up within your dark house. It's a big system, there's a lot to go through here, but in short, there's different activities that you can do as shadows, different activities that you can do as immortals. As shadows, for instance, you can raid the vault. You see, the immortals have this vault, so you can go in with a group of shadows, and it starts off as PvE, where you're trying to raid the immortal vault, but if you raise the alarm level to a certain point while raiding their vault, then immortal players will be alerted, and then the immortal players can come in and fight you in PvP. Then on the immortal side of things, one of the things immortals can do is Kion's Ordeal, which is a 48-man raid. A 48-man raid. You have 30 minutes to take down 4 bosses with a group of 48 people. I'm way oversimplifying the concept, but I love the idea in principle. If it works the way it's intended to work, if it's implemented well, if it's well balanced, I think this could be really, really fun. Organized faction-based PvP is something I'm interested in. What I'm less interested in is just random kind of open world PvP. But PvP with a purpose, asymmetric PvP, PvEvP, all these things are interesting, cool ideas to me. I look forward to seeing how this plays out. And a lot of it is just, this is a lot of stuff for a mobile game. This update is even introducing other systems. There's something called the Reliquary, there's the Battleground. So much is going into Immortal. It has more systems, more game modes than Diablo 3. It's like the Diablo 3 expansion I always wanted. Now, alpha invites will be going out to select community members as well as random people from Australia who are opted in. Why Australia? Well, quote, "We anticipate a couple of thousand players will be able to take part in the closed alpha. Mobile game development can often benefit from multiple rounds of public testing. By holding this limited closed alpha in a smaller region, we'll be able to take in valuable server stability and client performance data, as well as critical gameplay feedback to ensure that Diablo Immortal feels like a great experience before going wider in the future." Now, we still don't have a release window for Diablo Immortal, let alone a date, But during the last investor call, Activision Blizzard told shareholders that the game will release in 2021, but the devs themselves have not said anything in this regard. I did get flagged for alpha access. I will be playing Diablo Immortal. I will be streaming it for those who want to check it out. I am very interested to try out this PvP stuff, and I'll report back my impressions. And that's going to wrap up this week's video. But do be sure to check out last week's video, in which we discussed the signs pointing to a Diablo 2 Resurrected beta starting soon. TM. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more gaming content.